having boundaries and really putting yourself first and saving your energy is vital in the healing process. Hi, my name is Bella, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about empaths and narcissists and why they attract each other. This video came about because I've just recently done another video about when I was reading a journal entry that I did 1 year ago. So I thought I would make a video that would explain a little bit more about what an empath is, what a narcissist is, and how these seemingly opposing personalities end up together. I recently had a dream where I woke up, the ex-partner that I refer to, that I had the biggest experience with this, is he ended up in my dream and I woke up punching my bed quite aggressively because I had seen him for the first time in 2 years. He drove by in a car when I was walking down the street, and he yelled out towards me and got my attention. Nothing came of it. I gave him a polite wave, and then I started to feel these feelings of anger towards him and what happened in that relationship. And I hadn't normally felt anger. I'd normally would try and feel a sense of compassion towards him for what went on and for his inability to see clearly. So I would try and see it from that perspective, but for some reason I wasn't able to do that this time. I was really, really angry, and it was showing up in my dreams. And so this last week and a half, 2 weeks, has been about me diving into that, especially with this full moon energy that we've been having. The full moon, it was in Libra, and so we're 3 days past the full moon now, and I feel like I've done a lot of inner work to sort of try and alchemize these feelings that I was having towards my past. Which brings me to wanting to discuss with you what even an empath is. And I do identify as an empath. And so I wanted to spend some time discussing with you what that actually looks like. Empaths really do have a gift, and it can help them to feel and to be very compassionate towards other people's emotions, and they can be very in tune to those around them. However, with that gift, they can often become fixated on healing others before really healing themselves. And I know for myself, I actually would get caught up trying to heal other people, maybe subconsciously, because I wasn't ready to look at those parts within myself. So often we will attract partners that have a very similar wound to our own so that we can learn to heal others. And then from that experience, we can learn that we can heal ourselves too. That was a big realization for me when I had somebody tell me that, if you were to pour half as much of the energy that you pour into other people into yourself, your life would look entirely different. And I really took that to heart because it just made sense. I was like, yeah, I pour so much energy into other people, and I realized that I wasn't doing that for myself. I was still getting a lot of pleasure out of helping people, but obviously attracting people that had all these issues all the time was a reflection of what was going on within inside of me, because like is drawn onto itself, as the law of attraction says. It takes two people of similar vibration to end up together, and I'll talk more about that later on in the video. Empaths can sometimes confuse compassion with obligation, and they can often end up in manipulative situations because they don't often see clearly what's going on, because they are coming from that place of compassion. Another thing that can happen to an empath is the merging of emotions that they feel with somebody they start to care for can actually be confused for falling in love. By being able to pick up on when somebody else is feeling a certain feeling, you might think that that's due to closeness, but it's really due to the empath's gift of feeling other people's emotions. And it does take awareness of that to be able to know the difference and to have stronger boundaries. If an empath lacks boundaries, they can often end up overgiving, under-receiving, and wind up in relationships that deplete them rather than support them and nourish them. If the empath can learn how to use their gifts effectively and in a safe way for them, they can be the most powerful people, because they they become the wounded healer, where they learn how to heal through their own wounds. And so they end up becoming very shamanistic type personalities in the community. That's if they learn how to harness their gifts. On the other side of that, an empath who hasn't learned how to control their gifts can just wind up feeling very used, manipulated, and depleted, and have a lot more issues than what they started off with. I myself had this experience where I was in a series of relationships, and I genuinely loved giving, and I loved seeing them happy and helping them through anything that I possibly could. It was kind of like my purpose to light people up, and I did definitely lose myself in that. And I noticed towards the end of each relationship, I became quite bitter and resentful towards the partners, because you do start to realize that you're just not getting anything in return, especially if there's a lot of lying going on. And like, for example, I had a relationship that was very financially abusive, and yeah, that does leave a little bit of a mark, but it's something that can be healed. And that's why I wanted to make this video, and I wanted to raise awareness for other empaths out there that haven't learned to use their gifts properly, and how to harness them, and how to discern whose emotion is who. A narcissist, on the other hand, will come across as charming and confident and magnetic. But underneath this mask, they're actually feeling quite deep pain for not feeling like they are enough. And that comes from childhood trauma, or some trauma in their past causing them to feel the need to wear a mask. Instead of feeling vulnerable, they would rather defend themselves by looking for external validations so that they can feel worthy and adored. They feel out of control on the inside, and so they put effort into controlling their outside, often through relationships that will make them feel seen, admired, and always right. They try to preserve their flawless mask as best as they can, often through gaslighting and twisting the truth with their partners, and making their partners feel like they're crazy, or that it was their fault somehow. They lack empathy and emotion and awareness of what other people feel and how their actions affect them. They would rather see themselves as right and the other person as wrong than to consider that something that they did that was quite awful, how that actually affected their partner. And I experienced that a lot. Narcissists aren't evil people. They're wounded people who, instead of trying to heal themselves, would rather manipulate their external environment so that they can feel better. In their mind, in their subconscious mind, this is the only way for them to survive, by always looking for that external validation and wearing this very thick mask that sort of hides that pain that's going on inside of them. And most of the time, this is very unconscious behaviors that are happening, where they aren't aware of the deep inner wounding that's going on, and as long as they keep receiving that external validation, they're fine. Narcissists often aren't actually looking to be loved, they are looking to be worshipped, because on a really deep level, they don't feel like they deserve love unless they've earned it, or unless they're different somehow. And that comes from either childhood trauma or some sort of trauma in their life. So the remedy for them in their minds is to find somebody that will give endlessly, forgive easily, and stay way too long. And I have definitely done that myself. Stayed far too long. However, I am so glad that I had that experience, because it's shown me very clearly that I had some wounds to heal, and that's why I've spent it's over a year now alone, so that I could look at these wounds and not be confused by relationships. Everyone is a mirror that we meet. And I realize now that the mirror that I needed was something to show me that I need to have boundaries and discernment and my own self-worth to be able to heal and move forward. And for the narcissist, or for the person who, had those traits in the relationship, The empath reflects what they actually really want, but they can't access. Emotional depth, empathy, and inner peace. For an empath to heal after having a relationship with a narcissist, the best first step that you can take is to validate yourself and to acknowledge what you went through. A lot of the gaslighting and making you feel like you're crazy and like you were so wrong for doing anything other than pleasing them and not giving enough of yourself when you already gave so much. By validating what happened and seeing it for what it is, instead of being under this delusion that somehow you were at fault, that's the first step to healing, because without that realization that it wasn't your fault and that you're not crazy and that you were gaslit and that your energy was depleted, like by just recognizing what happened, you take your power back, because you can see clearly instead of being under this illusion that they helped weave this web around your eyesight. Essentially, like you just pull back the covers and you can see it clearly. So that's step number one for healing an empath after being in a relationship like that. Step number two is releasing the fantasy and embracing the reality. So many times I would go back to the ex because he would spin this whole saga of why he was better to be with now. They will often take responsibility for a very short period of time until they can sort of get you back in their orbit, or you orbiting them, and then they'll deny that they did anything wrong and they'll start to gaslight you again. I definitely experienced that myself, and so I know the temptation to go back to them when they start to spin those stories, but you've got to start to accept that they may never change, and it's not worth the risk to go back and to see if they have, because they can entrap you in their lies again. And each to their own, but I think that as empaths, we can try to see the best in people, and we can often overlook the blinding truth. And so I think just letting go of that fantasy and really seeing it for what it is and learning it for yourself is the next step. The third step I recommend is reclaiming your boundaries without having any guilt, because boundaries is the key for empaths. You need to know what you really want and versus what somebody wants from you, because when you feel other people's emotions, you can get confused as to what it is that you really want versus what this other person is asking from you. And I still experience that myself. I have to really be honest with myself, and sometimes I have to move away from the person or even sleep on the decision before I can come to a really clear understanding of what is it that I want from this. Do I want to give my energy to this person? And having clear boundaries and giving yourself time and space, especially away from their energetic field, is really powerful. Boundary setting is vital, and everyone could benefit from this. And it doesn't just have to be romantic relationships. Empaths often struggle with boundaries in all facets of their life, whether it be a stranger or whether it be a friend or a relationship that's romantic or a family. Having boundaries and really putting yourself first and saving your energy is vital in the healing process. And it's really important to be able to discern that if you're wanting to use your gifts for the public, like if you want to become a healer of some sort, you need to be able to have those firm boundaries. Number 4 is tending to the part of you that stayed. And that is what I've been experiencing these last few weeks. Is I was angry towards my ex, but I was also very angry at myself for not seeing it so clearly back then. I was mad that I put up with so much and accepted that I wasn't receiving in return. I was very upset with myself. And so these last few days I've been really doing the work to sort of forgive myself, and that can come back to inner child work and to have like a meeting with that version of yourself, because you're not the same person that you were back then. And have a meeting with them and say, look, you didn't know back then, and that's okay, but we know better now, and I forgive you for not seeing it the way that I see it now. And offer them some help to see it clearer, because you can tear open those portals into the past and help your past self to see what you see now. Number 5 is cutting the energetic cord. And there are so many different ways of doing this. And I'll let you look into that yourself. But one way you can do that I'll share my experiences is I would go get healing sessions myself. That was powerful. But another thing that you can do is water cleansing. The elemental spirits in the water are so healing. And if you say some sort of a ritual before you go in, just even as simple as I release this energy back to its sender, and I reclaim all of the power that I gave away. And you allow the water spirits to work with you and to cleanse your energy, and you can come out feeling like a new person. And I feel like that's really a powerful step in the healing process, because it's grounding it in physical reality with action. Number 6 is finding the gift in this situation. We can find appreciation for any situation if we allow it. And for myself, it was this invaluable lesson of having boundaries, and my discernment is so much clearer now. I have learned so much from that relationship. And since I have regained my energy over time, I'm able to now see it as a very, very big lesson that I learned and I will never forget. And also, if you are feeling hatred and real anger towards that person, like I was, and I don't like feeling that way at all. I'm very much more drawn to feeling compassionate, but these last few weeks it was anger, and that's what came out in my dream when I was punching the bed. And it was something my mum told me that really helped me. She's like, you know what? Like, as bad as it was, surely there was some good times in there that you could decide to focus on instead. And not for the purpose of dismissing what they did or forgetting, but rather like softening your own vibration, because to feel anger and hatred towards someone is just, it's never beneficial. And you need to take responsibility for the fact that you actually attracted that person into your life for a reason. And if you can learn the reason and you can let it go and forgive yourself for being in that situation, then you're so much closer to healing yourself from this. So for me, I was able to find some memories, some happy memories in there. And I was able to recognize that I was a younger version of me, and my wounding was much stronger back then. I had my own things to heal back then, and that's why I attracted that relationship, and it has taught me so much. And I don't know if I would have learned that much if I didn't go through it. So finding appreciation for something in this situation will do a lot to soften your heart after being hurt. And the final step number 7, creating a life around you that's nurturing for you now. Letting that love in through positive self-talk, and surrounding yourself with relationships that are nurturing and nourishing to you, and that don't feel like they're depleting, and becoming more sensitive to when someone is taking from you rather than giving to you. It can even be as simple as, before you enter into any kind of friendship or relationship, being like, what am I going to get from this? Like, do they add to my life or do they take from my life? And really just being kind to yourself. And I recommend, for people that have been through a relationship with narcissistic elements in it, or it might have been a really, really full-on narcissist. Everyone's different. Some just have traits, and some are very, very very powerful in their minds and they control. But the best thing you can do after that is to probably not enter into another relationship immediately after. What I learned was that I actually still had that vibration circling around me, and I did have a relationship very quickly after that one that was also narcissistic in different ways. And so it seemed like I was in a different relationship, but at the end I could see that it had still some traits in there. It wasn't as bad, but it was still there. And sometimes you just need a bit of a break to really clear up your vibration and to look at it clearly and to be able to process what happened. I think it's taken 2 years to process this relationship fully, because I did have that relationship afterwards and there was this distraction, and then it took a while to get over that one. And then the space that I gave myself, like over a year, it allowed the space to then process the one before that. And that's something that empaths can sometimes do, is just jump from relationship to relationship because they want to keep giving and they want to keep loving, and instead of looking at their own wounds, which can be too painful. So to close, I'll say this statement: narcissists can be one of the most powerful lessons for an empath. The lesson is to choose themselves, to put themselves first, and to love themselves first. If you would like to see more of my videos, please like and subscribe to this channel. And also drop me a comment below if this has spoken to you, or if you have your own experience that you'd like to share. So much love and appreciation for you all. Thank you so much for watching, and have the most beautiful day.